Hey, everybody. When I started the Courageous podcast almost 4.5 years ago, I mean, this is a complete pinch me moment. If you ever thought, I thought we'd get to the 250th episode, but here we are on 250. Pretty amazing. One, thank you so much for coming along this journey. If I'm a regular part of your week or month and I'm in your ears while you're in your car or on a run, thank you so much for having us as part of your life. We appreciate it. Two, I so hope that there's been an episode or a few where you've been able to take a few of the nuggets. When I think back to courage in general and the research we've done, interviewing the brave, the bullish, and the brainiac, there's so many memories from the athletes who've come on to Navy SEALs to people running their businesses. My hope is that you've been able to take some of those and also just apply it in your life. And three, oh my goodness, America turns 250 years old, and here we are in the 250th episode. It felt like the perfect time to bring an American dream story forward, which is Ed Roberson, who I've known Ed, for over 30 years or almost 30 years. And, hey, here's a good moment to ask yourself, where it feels like sometimes in the country we're living the American nightmare versus the American dream. There are people that are making decisions that are driving forward choices. They're making those leaps. And I think Ed is a perfect example of that. Hey, here's to the next 250. Enjoy the episode. This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
Do one thing at a time and do it very seriously, whether that's work, whether it's running, jiu-jitsu, more importantly, family time. Even if it's something I don't want to do and I'm not excited about doing, if I just give it my full focus and full energy, not only does the task get done better, but I feel better.
This is the best. That's how we're starting.
I like it.
Because
It's the best. Who would have ever imagined, like 30 years later, since we were wandering around Camp Seagull, trying to keep those kids in line, here we are.
The word you use that's so perfect for this is wandering, right? Like wandering and wondering. Maybe there's a show we could do called Wandering and Wondering together, because I feel like we both have wandered and we both have wondered. And also, let's call it what it is. Very rarely do I get to bring on somebody who kind of gets what it's like to actually be a podcast host. And you're right. Like you don't label yourself I don't label myself a podcast host, but I understand that, like, I have curious questions. Like, how did you happen? Why did you happen? The choices that you made, my role, I'm doing the opposite of what the role is, which is to get out of the way and actually discover more about your guests. And so, what a cool life the last decade's been for you. You made some pretty brave choices for you to land where you are now. And here we are, the creator of Mountain Prairie. Why don't you give a 2-minute on your world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild deal. And you're one of the few people, who's kind of seen the full trajectory, because, we met, I guess I was 19. What are you, 35 back then? No, you're like
easy. That's for the crew. I was the only one who could drink at 21. Not that I was drinking at camp.
But so grew up in Eastern North Carolina and, kind of followed the normal path. And you were there kind of, during a big transition when I was in college. And I think, Southeastern U.S. from those days at Camp Seagull where we worked. And, right out of college, I kind of followed the traditional path of what everybody else that I knew was doing, which was just go into either finance or commercial real estate. And I did both. And it was fine. And I didn't really, it was a job and it was great. But I'd always had this urge that I wanted to move out west. But I took myself too seriously at age 22 just to go be a ski bum or whatever. Eventually, I think I was 27, I was able to land a job in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, still in the real estate business, but selling these kind of big ranches all over the place. And that introduced me.
Do you think even that choice, like Jackson Hole, where you're like, oh, let me bury this let me bury this little subconscious thing in my soul, not really address, because I'm supposed to be like this. But do you think when Jackson Hole came up, that was sort of the beginning of the toothpaste coming out of the tube?
Oh, yeah. It was always Jackson Hole. I'd never even been to Jackson Hole. I'd never been until I went for my job interview, and I just had this obsession with it. And I'd read Outside Magazine, and I had all these books and, always looking at pictures of the Grand Teton. I'd never even been there, but it was this place in my mind where it's like, if I could just get there, it'd be great. But I need to have a real job. I need to be a grown-up. I need to wear a suit, the whole deal. And I'm telling you, man, like not too much like inside info, but people who listen to your podcast know you. And really meeting you when I was 19, I clearly remember like the first time I met you, I was just doing the normal college thing, frats and all this stupid stuff. And I remember talking to you like the first day I met you, and you were talking about being involved with your college's TV station and doing all this creative stuff. And I was like, this guy's in college just like me, but he's doing a completely different deal, and he's following his creativity. He's not just following a normal path. And so I really do credit your example with kind of planting a seed in my head, like things can be done differently. And so anyway, moved out west, stayed in the real estate business for a while, was still kind of trying to balance two worlds of like living out west, but also like be some kind of hotshot businessman. And I got really focused on being a real estate developer. I was like, I want to be a it was during the real estate boom of like 05, 06, 07. So I'm going to be a real estate developer. How do you do that? Well, I'll go to business school to learn how to do that. And during business school, got a full scholarship to business school. I was like, did my transcripts get mixed up with somebody else? But I went and was all in, got a fancy internship at a publicly traded real estate development company. And then I had this health scare that was bad. It was very scary to me, and ended up having, they told me I had testicular cancer. and then they did surgery, the whole deal. I was 30, exactly 30. Wow. And so they found this tumor. They did surgery 15 hours after they found it. And then the doctor called a week later after they did the biopsy. They had lined me up to go see the oncologist, the whole deal. So I was just kind of spinning out on painkillers after the surgery, the whole deal. And the doctor said, "You're a lucky dude because this thing is very rare, but it's benign. And so come in, get those staples out in 3 weeks, and you're good to go. I'll never see you again." And so anyway, that just started this, what I say was like a midlife crisis at age 30, trying to figure out, what am I going to do? I got a lot of energy. I want to do work that's important. I don't necessarily want to be tearing up Western landscapes to build golf courses. What do I do? And so we just started this kind of long meandering journey into the conservation world. I started this podcast, and then a few years ago, the podcast had kind of reached the point where it was making enough money that it could be my full-time job. And so it's called Mountain Prairie. It's about the American West, interesting people in the West doing important work, and kind of people that long ago I used to read about in Outside Magazine, or I'd learn about, see them in a film or something. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you build a cool life that's not just the normal path? And so it's really a podcast about humans and about how people have chosen these paths that they've taken, no matter what they're doing, whether it's conservation or movie stars or historians, Navy SEALs, whatever. So anyway, it's been a crazy, unexpected journey, but I'm very happy with how it's all working out.
Well, let's just to put a time frame on it. Happy anniversary. And I think we're a decade in now, right? Since the first episode. So
it'll be 10 years in a few months, 10 years of doing it, which is bizarre. I mean,
can you believe that?
No, I mean, my daughter was like 6 months old when I started it. And now I have two daughters, and I don't think I had any white hair when I started it. Now I'm looking very sophisticated.
I'm jealous. I love white hair.
My stash is not white though.
Nothing would make me happier than a little white hair.
That's what my dad says. My hair can turn purple, blue, green, as long as it doesn't turn loose.
Well, thanks, Ed's dad, for that. Appreciate you listening to this one. Hey, I also remember, I appreciate your, it's funny, when you're 19 or I went 35, however old I was, 21 at camp, right? That was my normal. I didn't, it's all, you always forget, your normal was tucked in polo, Izod shirts.
Pink polo,
right? And
yep.
that was the path that you were on. And my path was like, I mean, at the age of 13, I knew I wanted to study television radio. Like I've been like studying TV my whole life. Like you can do this for a living. I'm in. And I feel like, and then you go on your journey, I go on mine, and you have this internal fight, right? You're constantly battling yourself on what you think you're supposed to be doing versus what you actually want to be doing. And then there's another fight later, if you're lucky, when you actually can do the thing you want to be doing, assuming you can monetize it, or you can't. And then you just do it and it's a hobby, right? But I felt like a big moment for us, because let's call it what it was. Like I was heads down too, right? Like I was trying to build an agency and trying to survive on, the duck metaphor, like you're underneath the water doing the best you can. But I don't think it was 16, but I remember coming to Colorado, and I remember you made the effort to come see me. Yeah. And even I might as well have been on your like personal podcast in your brain. Like the questions you were asking, it was very obvious that you're like, this real estate thing is okay. I could do it now. I'm not sure this is the thing I want to do. I don't think Mountain Prairie was formed at that moment, but I think your belief as a conservationalist, like you knew who you were then, and you weren't totally able to be that person yet. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always had a creative streak, and I think of Mountain Prairie as like a creative endeavor, really. I mean, I think it's I don't consider myself like a journalist or anything. I mean, it's just, I'm curious about people, and I always have been. And like I would get together with people, when I was in the real estate business, it put me in touch with a lot of interesting people. And I was also doing a lot of like ultra endurance running, and I've always been a big reader. And so like I had all these interesting people that I would meet along the way that were doing cool stuff. And it just comes back to that question, like, how do you do that? And so I think when I think about Mountain Prairie and everything, my book recommendations, all that stuff, I say that it's supposed to be an instruction manual of my 23-year-old self. So like if that dude who had just graduated from college and was working at Merrill Lynch could have heard these conversations with these interesting people or read these books, it would have helped speed up the process of getting him kind of on a path that was more fulfilling. And I didn't know what was wrong. Like I couldn't put a finger on it. But I remember when I moved to Jackson Hole, I used to read Outside Magazine in North Carolina. And my dad even noticed like that I would get agitated like while I was reading it and because I wanted to be doing that stuff. And then I moved to Jackson Hole and I got my Outside subscription, and there was an article in there about fishing on Flat Creek. And I was like, Flat Creek is literally 1 mile from where I'm sitting. And I just felt this relaxation and calmness. I was like, all right, yeah. I'm here.
Wow.
I don't need to be so hyped up anymore. So yeah, there's something there, but you've always been a good mentor and sounding board for me on all that stuff.
I'm 2 years older than you. I'm not a mentor.
Yeah,
Ed.
you
We're
are.
just friends, Ed. We're just friends. That's it.
At this point, you can have mentors of all ages,
That's true. I hope that's in your book, which we're going to get to here in a minute. One of the things you said made me think of a friend of mine that passed away. His name was J. Wallace Nichols. You might have actually, as I know you're an avid reader, which we'll talk about your voraciousness in that world. Jay wrote a book called Blue Mind, and his thing was like, anytime you get in water or near water, it's like the ultimate recalibrator for you.
Yeah.
You can't not just like, he's like, get in water. And he's been on the pod a few times. I miss my friend. I really do, because he was just a smart, profound guy that was a doctor, but would always he was a human first.
Yeah.
That's what he was. And it feels like that's what when the move to Jackson Hole for you was that. It's like, get in nature, get outside, get near space and like where you can breathe. What have you learned from, like, are you the type of guy that like, I am outside, I need to be outside every day now, or at least once a week, or I'll go mad?
Yeah, I am. And my wife is actually the one who's helped me realize that, because if my mood starts going south, she realizes like, you need to go get on the trails. And so I live in Colorado Springs, and right up against, where there's a 14,000 foot mountain, I can see from my house. And so I can be on the trail, I can be at a trailhead in 10 minutes from my house. And I really like running a lot. And there is something about being outdoors, both being outdoors, but also pushing myself hard outdoors, and pushing myself mostly with like endurance type sports. And I mean, that's the reason I live here. And I've recently gotten obsessed with doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and that's all indoors. And it brings a whole different set of benefits, particularly community and people. But I live here for outdoors. And so I have to do it. And, one day during the pandemic, one time I made this goal. I'm like, I'm going to run 3 miles every day. And I ran 3 miles every day for 300 days straight. And it was all outdoors, like no matter what, if I was sick, if it was cold, if it was too hot, whatever. And just that reset of being even just around the neighborhood, but force myself to be outdoors for 30 minutes a day and pushing myself, get my heart rate up. It's mandatory for me, man. If I don't, it's everything else starts kind of
I'm curious, morning, like when are you a morning, you want to get up and go, or do you just got to fit it in? As long as you fit it in during the day, you're at peace.
I fit it in. Yeah. I want to be a morning person so bad. And I generally do jujitsu like 3 days a week, early morning. And but it never gets easier, man. And so my running, I kind of fit it in whenever I can. And 3 miles is great. And I just do it around the neighborhood. But on the weekends, I always try to do one kind of longer run on the trails and get up high in the mountains, that's what I'm.
How long are you going
really
usually?
Love. Like right now, I've got a 6 mile loop that I do. It's like 6 miles with probably like 1,300 feet of vertical. So it's just enough. But when I'm training for like a long run, I'll go out there, I'll do like 30 miles, and it's not running by what people that are real runners would see me. They're like, you're not running. It's more just like moving, not stopping for however either miles or time but I love it, man. And I don't know why, but
I'm so
it.
fascinated by human behavior and ritual. And so forgive me for asking like these little.
No, I love that. I love this stuff.
What are you, when you do a 3 mile, when your normal 3 miler during the week, are you the type that's like, I don't want to hear anyone but my own brain? Are you going with the music in your ears, podcast in your ears, book in your ears? What's your go-to?
Always music. I can't listen to a podcast. It starts like scrambling up in my brain, and I really think it's important to have a break from all this incoming information and trying to process all this information. And so I don't like just going by myself. I will sometimes without the phone, aka music, but generally music is good, and it eventually tunes out and I'm not really listening to it. But I found as I've been getting deeper in this writing process that 30 minutes with music and a raised heart rate, it really allows some of the ideas that I've been thinking about when I'm trying to write, it really helps them come together, or I have new ideas, and I'll do like a quick voice memo so I don't forget it. And so it seems like it's almost like like sleeping. You know how sleeping helps you rest your brain and organize everything? It's like a version of that. It just kind of lets everything rattle around and settle in, and then new ideas will pop up.
So, folks, Ed, Mountain Prairie, it's a snowball, man. This thing is growing. Like when you see who's recognized it, I mean, the Aspen Institute, Patagonia, Apple Podcasts, the Nature Conservancy, like this is pretty cool to watch it go. But I'm trying to figure out which came first, the podcast or the voracious reading. Like, were you reading and they're like, I'd love to talk to this person, which people don't do, by the way. They don't think like they get a book and they forget the author and they get caught up in the characters. And by the way, this is not my way of saying you should invite me people on your shows or ask me questions. It's just good storytelling. You're in the story, right?
Yeah.
But so which came first? Were you reading and you're just like, wow, what a story. This really happened. I'd love to talk to this person. And then your resourceful self tracked them down, or did you have the podcast?
Yeah, I've always loved reading. You know, I've always really, really loved it. When I had that health scare, soon afterwards, I read this book called The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, about Theodore Roosevelt from birth up until just before he assumed the presidency. And he'd talk about this idea of the strenuous life that he had, and he would go hardcore and everything, but he read a book a day, even when he was president. And I remember thinking, man, if that guy can read a book a day, I could read like one every 2 weeks. And so I at age 30, I really took it from, I like to read and I read some I'm interested in, to like, I'm going to read a lot of books. And so I just kind of that's really when the voracious reading started. And then I started that book recommendation email that I send out every other month. It's just books that I've
Love
enjoyed, and you have been featured and will be featured again very soon.
I'm not looking for a promotion here, but what I will say is before we get there it is. Sorry, people on audio. He's got he's got head of mentals. Before we jump any further, because I want people to like actually go check out your list. Where does somebody go to sign up for the list? It's a great list.
Yeah, you can just go to mountainprairie.com or mountainprairie.com/reading. It's just one email every other month with just very weird. They're not even, it's not reviews. I don't like the idea of review because like, who am I to say whether a book's good or bad? It's just books that I read and I like, and they're very positive, but I think they're pretty funny. And I guess some other people do too, but just books that I've read and I've enjoyed. And it's generally anywhere from like 5 to 7 books with just a paragraph, no sales pitches for anything or anything like that.
It's perfectly Ed. It's like you're not trying to get in the way. You want the books to do what the books do. I adore it. Also, I don't want to bury what I felt was like a really critical moment, which was the Roosevelt book and Strenuous Life. And by the way, we try not to make these things political, but I would not be opposed to our current president reading one book a day and maybe being a little quieter in other arenas. And if you don't love that part, this is the last of the politics, folks. We're going to move on. But Strenuous Life, like I feel like that stayed with you. Like that doesn't feel like just a moment in a book. I feel like you've tried to operationalize this idea.
Yeah, that was probably one of the, none of these moments or anything makes sense in the as they're happening. But when you look back, you're like, oh, that was kind of important. And I think reading that book was very important. And it really just gave me this kind of operating system. Theodore Roosevelt, I know a ton about Theodore Roosevelt. Like that's the one thing I can confidently say I know a lot about. And like any historical figure, particularly guys from that time frame, he's a flawed guy in a lot of ways, but take the details of his life out and just look at the operating system. And he had this idea of like, I'm going to go full speed and I'm going to leverage every bit of anything that I was lucky enough to have. I'm going to leverage it. And he did that. And he put himself in very uncomfortable situations. He pushed himself when he was, not only he didn't need to, but he was told not to. He was a very unhealthy kid with asthma and all these health problems. And doctors are like, you need to just chill out. You need to be a man of letters. You're a rich kid. Just sit around and do nothing. He was like, actually, I'm going to do the exact opposite. And I'm going to go as hard as I can. And he did. And so I found through a lot of trial and error that works very well with my personality. And I'm not talking about being manic or in a rush or being frantic. I'm talking about just, it's less about full speed and more about full focus. Like if I'm do one thing at a time and do it very seriously, whether that's work, whether it's running, jujitsu, more importantly, family time. I mean, I know you and I are exactly the same on that. Like we got a lot going on, but when it's family time, it's family time. And I've just found that no matter what, even if it's something I don't want to do and I'm not excited about doing, if I just give it my full focus and full energy, not only does the task or the project get done better, but I feel better. And it's almost like the opposite of a lot of common sense, or what I thought was common sense was we need to rest. We need to relax. Like I need to focus. And when it comes time to relax, be very focused on that. They said Theodore Roosevelt was an energetic sleeper. Like when it came time to sleep, he slept like 8 or 9 hours a night, which is what I like to do. So yeah, strenuous living is everything.
So let's talk about for those who are just on a run and we're in their ears, and hopefully we're not jumbling up their run, right? But I run this from the Courage Cave. My wife loves it. I have a step and repeat in my home, but that's what we've got here. And you can even see it's the Brave What's Hard is over my shoulder. And I'm talking about a strenuous life, the hard life.
Yep.
And I don't think it's like I don't think my life is that hard, but I do think I'm focused. I like running at courage. I like being around courageous people that are not afraid to go for it. And frankly, and I've said this on the show before, Ed, I find our brand isn't telling the world who we're for, but it's also telling the world who we're not for. Yeah. And it's the first time I got that part right, where it's like, if you see our brand name and are like, courageous, how does that fit? I'm like, yeah, good. No, please don't call.
Yeah,
like,
not for everybody.
That's okay. Like,
it's not for you.
That's okay. We're not trying to be for everybody. I'm not being a jerk. All good. Like, go do you. Behind you, if I'm in the Courage Cave, what you've got a shelves of books It looks like you're in some cabin. You've got little festive holiday lights up there in the back too. But I can feel that we're like, there might be a bear outside your house right now. Or where are you exactly?
Well, I tell people, like, I hope they don't think it's like a Unabomber Part 2, like sitting in a shed reading books.
It looks like it's shed.
It is
The
a
book
shed. So this is in my backyard, and it was like when we bought the house, it was like a garden shed that had a bunch of, lawnmowers and stuff like that in it. And just before the pandemic, my dad actually helped. He actually insulated the thing for me, and that was when I was even that long ago. I was like, I need to write. I want to, and so it was gonna be my little writing shed. But just slowly, it became my office. And as the pandemic hit, it really was, and it was my wife's office too, as the kids were inside. And now it's just kind of become, Mountain Prairie World Headquarters. But I get all these books, man. I get so many books. I get like 6 or 7 books a week from publishers, who want me to read it and promote it or whatever. And so it's really like there's a table over here that's just stacked with books. Like there's a real risk of book avalanche, and I die in here.
That wouldn't be a bad way for you to go. Let's call it what it is. Like that for you, that makes a lot. We're all going to go, but book avalanche, that'd be pretty wild. At some point, you got this little idea in your head, right? You're reading all these books, and then at some point you decided to pick up a pen yourself, or whatever we do these days, and you're in it. You're in the thick of it on your own book. Can you share first what made you like tip the scales and go, okay, I have something to say. I'm actually gonna see where this thing takes me.
Well, I think I've always wanted, or ever since I started reading a lot, I've always thought that it would be great to write a book. It's one of these things which you can appreciate that's very, very scary to me, and it seems very, very hard. And let's keep that in, being a roofer in July is hard, right? Writing a book is kind of it's not that hard. But when I think about something that would be very challenging for me, both just to actually get it done and then kind of the vulnerability of it, it's very, very hard. And so I'd wanted to do it forever. People, I'd been approached by people to, you should write a book. And I just couldn't get it done. And I had several kind of false starts with the proposal and all that. And then about this time last year, actually, I got sick of all my excuses. And so I actually wrote like a real contract with my wife. And I said, if I don't have this proposal done, I think it was by like March 31st or whatever, and I don't have it done and turned in, I can't even consider writing a book until the year 2040. Like there's not even an option of thinking about it. And so what do you know? March 31st, I turned the thing in, and I had COVID, and it was like I was so sick and out of it, and I got the thing turned in, and so to an editor who was helping me, and so it's kind of been getting that proposal dialed in. And then I just a few months ago was lucky enough to get signed with a really, really, really awesome agent out of New York who's really excited about me and the idea and the ability to sell the thing. And so right now I'm still kind of tweaking the proposal, and then hopefully we'll get it sold to somebody in the new year. We're recording this in December, so I hope January 2026, hopefully get it out there.
Too many questions from that flurry of information. Yeah. So let me go. The main two are: one, the day that you turned in the social contract with your wife, that you had COVID. Did you run 3 miles that day?
Oh no, I bailed on the 3 miles after COVID. What I did, this is a good excuse. The 3 miles a day, I had to stop because I signed up for a 100-miler and I needed to rest. Like my body was torn up, so I rested and then trained for the 100-miler. So anyway, I was not doing that.
How does somebody train for a 100-miler? I mean,
there's people make it so complicated. It's like podcasts. They make it all like you need to do all this stuff. Here's what I did. I'd run like 3 days a week during the week, and then go and crank hard, like do like 30 miles every Saturday morning for like 3 months. And then you sign up and you go do the 100.
Okay. We're going back to the book. By the way, the best social contract idea I've heard, shout out to Gary Ware. And I don't know where Gary got it. Gary wrote a book called Breakthrough Play. He like basically goes into companies and shows them how play actually does lead to productivity. And Gary and I used to work together at IDEA, my last company.
Yeah, I recognize the name.
And Gary's like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write me a check for $2,000, and you're going to put a date on it. And if if your book isn't done by that day, I'm going to cash the check.
Damn. You got to do what you got to do, man.
Fear, baby.
Yeah.
The power of fear.
You
right?
have to
The
be,
power
I
of
have to be
fear.
scared. I mean, whether it's athletics or work or whatever, I have to be a little bit nervous or I just signed up for a jiu-jitsu tournament at the end of January. I'm so scared and I've had to cut some weight and I've been lifting weights and cause I'm terrified. I can picture some roided up 47-year-old man on the other side who's trying to break my ribs. And I'm like, I'm so scared.
That's awesome, man. All right. So what's the book about? What's it called?
About the strenuous life, about this idea. It was the initial idea was a memoir, but I think, when it comes to the actual business of selling books, I think my agent thinks as well that there's more of an opportunity to make it less about, hey, let me tell you this cool story about this cool stuff I did, and more about, here's some lessons I learned and things that you can apply to your own life. I mean, you know this genre very well. And so basically what I'm doing is talking about how I discovered this operating system of the strenuous life and how I applied it to my life and how other people I know have applied it to their life, some of the lessons learned, some of the techniques that people can use, and the difference between this and other books. Like there are plenty of books by, former Navy SEALs are like about running ultras or doing all this hardcore stuff. And it's like, I'm a tough guy. I'm so tough, but I'm not a tough guy. Like I've done all that stuff, but it's been it's a hilarious mess when I do it, like hallucinating and, just, it's not at all some heroic kind of thing. And so the idea is like, if a guy like me, who's not necessarily athletic, not necessarily the smartest guy in the room, can go out and kind of force himself through effort and focus to accomplish some interesting things. I don't know that they're that impressive, but interesting things, anybody can do it. I mean, really, anybody can do it. And that's what I say about, you ask, how do you run 100 miles? It's not, if you want to do it, it's not that hard. I mean, it's challenging, but it's not like, I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not even close. And so I think there are all these lessons in this idea of full focus, full effort that made my life significantly better. And I think it could make other people's lives significantly better. And again, it goes back to that 23-year-old me. If that guy could read this book, it would have sped everything up.
I love the operating system idea, and it's been a while probably since you've looked at Return on Courage. It's probably like 3,000 books ago for you on reading. But, one of the things that I struggled with, because, and it's funny, you write the book you need.
Yeah.
And I've done it twice now. And it what is it? Fool me once. It's that. It's truly that. Like the first book on courage, I wrote it because I needed the courage. And then I thought I was finally like put that behind me and done, and read a book about self-talk. And you're like, oh my God, I got duped again. I wrote a book about self-talk because I had self-talk, right? So I have my own shit too between my ears.
Yep.
But the one thing that has stayed with me was the concept of, we have a central nervous system and it's not your fault. Like everyone has it.
Yep.
And a lot of my keynotes, I'll actually break it down where I'm like, central at very core of you is a system.
Mm-hmm.
You're a computer, you have an operating system. And right there in the middle of central nervous system is nervousness.
Yeah.
It's nervous.
Yeah.
It's like, don't move to Jackson Hole.
Yep.
Don't write a book. Don't do 100-miler. Right? Like all the things. And it's like, that was the biggest aha for me. It's like, we all have this little nervous little system that is designed to keep us safe. And, my self-talk kicked in, as a branding guy, when I was like, oh, shit, we never developed a central courage system. Like, we have this central nervous system. We've never developed this CCS. What if I could help people do that? And then my self-talk's like, newsflash, you went to television radio school. You're not a doctor.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be a doctor. Go to school for 7 years, not because you failed out after 4.5. Like, and you start talking shit to yourself.
Yep.
And the only way I could overcome it actually was I changed the label on my phone. And every morning my alarm went off, talk about ritual behavior.
Yeah.
I saw build strong central courage systems.
Oh, nice.
Right. Cause I needed, I knew if I allowed my self-talk to win in my head, I would not have gone forward with it because I was speculating out on the condos. But in my heart, I believed it was true that like that's really what I've been put on this earth to do. So like I'm so excited for Strenuous Life. It like deeply resonates with me. If I can help in any way, I mean, I know we already are by amplifying it, but as you're on this 100-mile metaphorical run, riding away, you know, I'm going to be there with water and a sign. I'll probably also hold up a sign that says the wall just for this marathon. Well, you're here. You're at the wall. Like, where is the wall? Are you near the wall in the writing process or no?
It's been tough trying to rework that proposal, like because I'm at the end of the year and I'm kind of redoing some of the business stuff for my podcast, and so it takes me quite a while to get the momentum going. Like I have to be quiet with no interruptions, and then it takes maybe 30-45 minutes to get going, and then I'm good to go and the ideas come. But it's kind of been more in and out, and so I'm excited for January to get a few weeks of just real focus time on it. But, you know, I'm still, you know, the real work comes from when you sign that contract and they're like, yeah, you got to deliver this thing in a year. And so that's, if whatever I think is challenging now, it's going to be ramped up to a whole new level once, assuming everything goes as planned.
Well, if you want to write me a $10,000 check, you can, and I can cash it. If the book's not done, that's no problem. Notice I mentioned Gary's was $2,000 and I jumped it up to 10. Hey, you know what? I feel like you've had some pretty amazing guests on your pod. Who's the one that like, you're like, wow, that person actually gave me an hour of their life and was awesome?
There are a ton of them, but I would say I just recently interviewed Yvon Chouinard, who is the founder of Patagonia. And he's been a hero of mine forever. I really started focusing on his work when I was in business school. And I read that book called Let My People Go Surfing. And it was interesting because all the lessons in that book were almost like the exact opposite of what I was learning in the classroom. You know, and I told him when I met him, I said, man, I really appreciate all your work, but a lot of those professors at my business school did not, because I would argue with them about I was on your side. But I just interviewed him this past October, and I've got a really great relationship with Patagonia. He wrote a book about fly fishing, and they were like, he's going to do one interview about it because he's 87 now, and they're like, will you come and do it? And I was like, oh my
amazing.
God. So that was really awesome. Another one that was really out of the blue that has been great and has started kind of a really cool friendship is the guy Nick Offerman, who played Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec. He's a big regenerative agriculture guy, and he's big Wendell Berry. He knows Wendell Berry. He's very, very, very into. He's a woodworker. He's just a really cool dude, and he kind of somehow became a fan of the podcast, and we became friends on the internet. And he invited me to come out to LA, and we went to his wood shop and talked and hung out for a while. And the dude is just like, however cool you would hope he would be, he's cooler. He's just a completely like down to earth, normal, generous dude, like just an awesome guy. And we've stayed in touch, and he's just goes out of his way to be super generous. I don't know how he does it, because he's got so many. He just, he won an Emmy last year or 2 years ago. But it's all these people have been the example. You hear that dumb phrase like "don't meet your heroes," and just through luck, I've been able to meet a lot of mine, and they're all even better than I'd hoped. So I guess the real thing is like, maybe you should pay attention to who your heroes are, because I've been nothing. I mean, I've gotten to meet them all, or the vast majority of them, and they're all awesome.
I got to tell you, when you said I don't know how he's done it, I think that's how you do it, right? I think how you do it is just. I mean, I'm definitely of the school of like, don't be a jerk, right? Like that has, you help people when you can, and you do what you can. And I think when fear wins, right? We've talked a lot about fear. Like fear is a great motivator.
Yep.
And if you can look at fear, if your relationship with fear is, this is going to help me. Actually, this is not going to hurt me.
Yep.
I'm not going to be afraid of this thing. You're like, wow, that wasn't so scary after all. I just had to get through it and do it. Like, oh, who in the right mind says 100 miles is not, running 100 miles isn't scary? You're crazy, right? From my lens. But for you, you've done it. It's like you knew what the fear was, and you did it anyway. So I always wonder, like almost anyone I've met who's really kind of gone for it and got on the other side of it, there's gratitude.
Yeah.
And you want to help people get there and do it and be there. We have some mutual heroes in our text chain, and I want to bring this up because in some ways it's amazing that we met at a summer camp.
Yep.
And Billy Collins, shout out to Billy.
Yeah.
My business partner on the knowledge team. We still talk about, it's like, it is amazing that this summer camp is a big ruse. It is just a ruse. They pretend to like lure you in with sailing and archery and a tower and an 18-hole golf course. And this camp has nothing to do with any of it.
Exactly.
None of it.
Yep.
It's all about character.
It is.
It's all about challenges. It's all about connection. And, we got to meet at a time. And by the way, like if I really think about the business that Billy and I are in, it is like bringing more character to leadership.
Yep.
It's like, it is taking exactly what we learned at that camp in North Carolina, Camp Siegel, and just bringing a little bit of that dust. And sometimes it's one of those, it's like almost like a dad job where like you can't tell them.
Sure.
They need to like sort of do the walk to water and then figure it out themselves. And through all that, there's 5 or 6 of us. And back then there were landlines and you could write your buddy a pen pal situation. And somehow we all, over the next 15 years pretty much, went on our journeys, went to our colleges, went to our jobs, picked a respective city. And to this day, you, me, Jared Lena, Jonathan Menachem, Jim Mahan, John Mormon, Pull and Daniel. What's up, boys? Like, we are still on a text chain that gets heavily congested in March during March Madness. It gets a little quieter in the June.
And I'm noticeably silent during that phase.
You're like, remember that part I said I wasn't an athlete, right? But don't you think it's fascinating that our connection after all this time has stayed? And if we did pick a city, like if we actually go to Mahan's Star Wars house or whatever his house is going to look like, right? We're on rocket chairs drinking brown drinks. Like we would pick up like we were, well, I was 35 and you were 19 again.
Yeah.
Do you think we wouldn't just pick right up?
Oh, I know we would. And it's almost like family in that way. You hear some joke, like when you go home to see your parents, you turn back into like the 15-year-old version of yourself. And I do think even on the text chain with all of us, we were able to let our guard down. And I think, as we've all grown up and gone on and done our own different things, and everybody's pursued their own different passions and careers and had a lot of success doing that. But none of that stuff really matters. It's almost like brothers. I don't have a brother, but I would think that that's how it is. Like we give each other a hard time. We laugh at each other. Nobody can get away with anything. Like if I were to, start acting like somebody else, or one of us, all of a sudden got a little too big for our britches, we would instantly be brought down to back down to that.
Chop the wood, baby.
Yeah, and
timber.
I think that is so important. And I've said this before, but like, I think it's very rare. I've seen that as I've gotten older, and that I feel like a lot of people don't have really, really old, really, really good friendships like that. And I have that at Siegel. I went to a boarding school. I have that with the boarding school guys. And it's this thing that's just, it's a foundational connection that it doesn't matter what we do, whether you go off and you make $1 billion or say somebody had just an awful string of bad luck and ended up, in drug rehab or something. We would all still be there supporting each other, and because we know who that person is at their core. And I think that it's very, very rare. And every year I take it, I am more and more thankful for that, because I just know how rare it is.
Yeah, you reminded me, because we're speaking in books too. So I don't know if you remembered this little. I wrote this with my kids. Yeah. This is Unwelcome to Opposite Town, and you're born old and you die young. But one of the things we talk about in the book is there's not grown-ups, they're grown downs, right? They're grown downs.
Yeah.
They're going the other way. I always feel like a grown down on our text chain. Like I'm instantly teleported back to us as kids and you nailed it. Like you can let your guard down and just play and have a good time. And I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I'm so grateful that at the age of 8, my parents shipped me away for 2 months or for a month, right? 2 states away to North Carolina, because really it's like for being like a Jewish kid, like it was funny. I was just telling someone the other day, like my religion is more human. I'm like humanish than Jewish. Like I grew up at a YMCA camp. My first real girlfriend was Mormon. You know, I clearly had a bar mitzvah, clearly Jewish, right? Like it's like, I feel like living in New York City, like you hear everything and you're with everyone. I wouldn't replace those Seagull days and our text chain for just about anything, man. So let's wrap it up. What is the most brave thing you're working on? Do you think, is it the book?
Yeah, I think it's probably the book. I mean, that's, again, a lot of those guys I do jiu-jitsu with are combat veterans who were over in, Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's all relative. But I feel like in my mind, everything I've been doing with the podcast and, everything, even all the crazy experiences and fun stuff and meaningful stuff going back to camp, I think it's all kind of like a funnel that is, in my mind, is leading to writing the book. And so that's exciting, but nerve-wracking. And I don't want to, put too much pressure on myself or establish any kind of weird expectations about it. But that's, when I think about what makes me nervous right now, that's it. I mean, as far as a specific task, obviously family and raising my 2 girls and having my marriage and all that, that's the most important. And there's things to be nervous about as you got 2 little girls coming up in the world. But I would say right now it's definitely.
Well, we're going to have you back on in 2 years when the book is out in the world, right, for 18 months. And we'll discuss if I've cashed that check or not. Man, I love you. So it's so great.
You too, man. You're the man. Thanks for having me on. This is real pleasure and honor to be on here with all these badasses you've had. My hero Seth Godin's been on here, so I can now say I've been on the same podcast with Seth Godin.
Man, that would talk about being. I was scared for that interview. That was one I was definitely scared for, because he's the man.
He's a hero, man. That's awesome.
And he's just like another next level learning. Hey, I took a ton from this too, Ed. I mean, look, if there's someone on the chain of our friends who I would call a hero, it's John Menachem.
Yes.
But you are right there on the podium. It's
no.
Menachem.
No. Jonathan Menachem, like, for people, this guy, he out of school, he did like I did, got into finance, was doing this high-end investment banking in New York City. People dream of that job, and he bailed to go to med school. And now he's one of the best cardiologists in the world.
And let's just, in the spirit of, we got to chop some trees, because he would chop a tree on me in the second he could. He went to Tulane. Okay, we know what happens at Tulane. I've been to Tulane with you, Menachem. Okay, I've been there with you, and he figured out a way to be one of the best. You talk about a strenuous life, and I even like getting into a school that would take him to be a doctor. And
it's funny because he's got his rejection letters up on the wall.
Figured it out.
I think
it out.
You talk about grit and talk about walking away from something that was almost a sure thing to go on this path. And now
I feel slightly bad now that we're not doing this with every one of the boys, because
I know we need to go through the whole list.
This is going to bore the hell out. We love you, guests. Thank you. We won't do that. And Chain, you know who you are. Keep doing what you're doing. And Mayan, keep living the Peter Pan life and finding one of one cards of Yao Ming or whatever it is tomorrow. Ed Roberson. Ed, where can people find you?
MountainPrairie.com. Go there. There's all the links to all the stuff. It's crazy stuff. Not for everybody, but if you're into it, it's pretty fun.
Stay courageous, folks. Live a strenuous life. Go get them. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.